We've all been fond of Hue Jackson for years. To his family, children, and others who are watching, we're not here to cast any aspersions on that man. Talk to most people. Hue Jackson is a good man. That's not what this conversation is about. This ain't to character assassinate him, to excoriate him as a man, as a human being, or as a person. This is about the choice that he made involving the specific hiring of Art Briles. It was an egregious decision. And it's something that has made Hue Jackson look very, very bad for years to come. Because think about what has transpired. You are Hue Jackson, and I want y'all to put Acho up on the screen because I want to look at Acho while I'm talking to him right now. Acho, Hue Jackson was on national television 2 weeks earlier decrying the state of affairs involving minority hires in the National Football League. This is while he was the coach at Grambling. Now, it would be one thing if you were in Cleveland and you were talking about it. No, once Brian Flores put forth his civil action lawsuit against the Giants, the Denver Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, and the National Football League, Hue Jackson, who was supposed to be minding his business down in Louisiana at Grambling State, decided to come front and center and speak about that issue along with the fact that minorities weren't being hired. It was Hue Jackson that once spoke to the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and he talked about issues that minorities had getting jobs. It was Hue Jackson that, according to my sources, was in tears while addressing people on the diversity committee like Kim Bagula and others because of how minorities were being treated in terms of opportunities denied to them while he was coaching in the NFL and looking to get an opportunity. And that Hue Jackson ends up at an historically black college and university and decides to hire an Art Briles with that track record to be a leader of young black men. Do you have any idea how bad that looks? The answer would be no. Hue Jackson didn't have an idea. He was defiant. He was very resolute in his thoughts. I was told, if you know anything about Hue, understand, Hue was very popular for saying, particularly when he was the head coach in Cleveland, when you're the head coach, you can do what you want. Hue is very popular and known for being a contrarian, and he fights for the underdog. Art Briles, nobody wanted him. Well, once upon a time, Hue Jackson felt like nobody wanted him, and so he can relate. And that would be enough for him to say, to hell with everybody, I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm used to adversity, okay? So we can bring up, oh, you're trying to compete with primetime Deion Sanders and all of this stuff, making noise, making inroads, making headlines because you knew at the HBCU level being the head coach at Grambling. I ain't thinking about any of that. All I'm thinking about is the fact that Hue Jackson had a history of fighting these issues on behalf of African-American coaches. I'm not saying that the man couldn't hire a white coach at an HBCU. I can tell you right now, considering the scarcity or the paucity of opportunities accorded to black coaches, it would have been nice to see you hire a black coach in that position, but that's neither here nor there because there's plenty of qualified white coaches, and I want to be clear about that. But that's the white coach that you hire? That's on Hue Jackson's resume forever. If you're the president, the chancellor of Grambling State, if you're the athletic director, y'all might have co-signed it, but y'all didn't know this kind of heat was coming. And in the end, where you gonna look? You're gonna look to the coach that you just hired in December and said, you brought us all this heat? So clearly the decision came from up top to compel Art Briles to go. Now, I don't know that. It could have been Art Briles on his own, but I doubt it. I suspect the university had its trepidation once the heat came down upon them. But no matter which direction you look in, Acho, it comes right back to Hue. How in God's name could you make this call at an HBCU after the battles you've been known to fight as recently as 2 weeks earlier on national television, on SportsCenter, lamenting the lack of opportunities for black coaches? You get it, and this is what you do. There is no getting around that. And Hue Jackson, I don't want anybody to think that he is anything less than a good man just because you're stubborn or hard-headed or truculent because you believe what you're doing is right doesn't make you a bad person by any stretch of the imagination. But to make this decision, it will live in infamy that Hue Jackson made this call to begin with. Go ahead, Acho.
Stephen A., I'm with you on everything that you said, but I think there's a bigger picture, maybe even a bigger conversation that needs to be had, because when it comes to college football, pro football, really any level of football, go down to high school football, it seems as if people care more about winning than integrity. Yeah. They care more about your final record than it comes to your character. And so take out, no matter what league you play in, whether it's the XFL, Canadian football, high school, NFL, college, winning matters. And here's why I say that winning matters, at least from what I've experienced in my 4 years in college, going to national championship, 9 years in the NFL, going to the playoffs. Art Briles in 2013 at Baylor won the Big 12 while all this sexual misconduct was going on. He won it the next year as well. While all this sexual misconduct was going on, it had been going on years before. It had been reported. And he got rewarded with a new 10-year contract. And in fact, Baylor got rewarded with a brand new stadium, McLean Stadium, right? RG3, he played in the old stadium, helped in a lot of ways with the wins that the team had. They built a new stadium. They were rewarded. And so for me, I care more about character and integrity than I do about wins and losses. But society may not care more about character and integrity. So when Hue Jackson says, I'm hiring Art Briles, so I want to compete, he might be going with the societal standards of like, hey, let's forgive, if you will, quote unquote, and then worry about wins and losses because that's what society rewards. Is it okay? No. But is that what happens? Yes.
I know we got to go, Acho, and Molly, I'm going to give this to you.
Yeah.
Black coaches are a brotherhood.
Yeah.
I've spoken to many. I can't find one that is okay, not one, that's okay with this call Hue Jackson made.
Absolutely. And I just want to say this very quickly. I know we've got to get to the top of the hour real quick. Obviously, this was the right decision. You heard my thoughts on this for Art Briles to resign. Obviously, it was an egregious hiring by Hue Jackson. It was baffling on many levels, especially how hard he went for Brian Flores. But I do want to say this. I do applaud Hue Jackson because he does have a foundation fighting human trafficking.
Yes.
That is the third most profitable crime. There's 40 million people trafficked globally. It is modern day slavery. So I do want to applaud him for putting his time and energy into that, and it's an issue many people stay away from because it can be very dark and ugly.
Absolutely.
But it needs to be addressed. So we do need to applaud him.
We're only going
on
about
that
this
end.
decision.
No, absolutely.
Nothing else about him.
But,
nothing else about Hue Jackson.
But I just want to say
this decision.
He is tackling this one head on.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Are you thinking more about how to tighten up your budget these days? Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2020 and May 2021.